What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Representing the Resin. My name's Jameson Wellborn, and today we're joined by ARADEN and Jason of 7 Farms Down. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for having us, buddy.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, man.
Absolutely. Happy to have you, Baker. So where are you guys joining us from? Just for the people listening.
I'm in Merlin, Ontario.
And
I'm not far.
Yeah.
You're not far away?
He's in town.
No. About half hour down the road.
Beautiful. And that's Southern Ontario for the folks who aren't aware of it.
Yeah, Southwestern Ontario.
Southwestern Ontario.
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. So I first connected with you guys well over a year ago. And we connected over a really cool project with Emerald Mountain Legacy that I definitely want to touch on and go into more detail later on. But before we talk about that, what you're cultivating, what the farm looks like, and your experience with the Canadian legal system, I want to learn more about you two and learn about your background. So Jason, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. You know, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
Yeah, so actually I'm born and raised 7 Farms Down. If I look out that window right there, I can see my home farm. So hence the name 7 Farms Down. I've got into actually my first experience with cannabis. The first 2 times, smoking this stuff, I didn't feel a thing. But it was on that third try when I smoked it, and I felt like the floor was right here and the ceiling come right here. I was like, wow, this is going to be the coolest ride of my life. And then I was heavy in music, and I don't think I could have got as near the amount of inspiration. And to this day, I really can't get to my creative side kind of going without like engaging with some form of I guess, what would you say, substance?
Intoxicant.
Intoxicant. It really brings out the creative side. I'm a firm believer on that, and too on the health benefits and everything. So that's where I kind of came from, and I grew it all through these years. And I was more of a I didn't have the expertise like that say ARADEN has. Like I was more of I put some plants out there, I gave them water, and at the end of the year I had a whole bunch of larvae. It was great because it was free and I got to share it with my friends. So when we were jamming, we always had lots of it. And then we hooked up with ARADEN, and then we kind of started planning out this weed venture prior to legalization.
I'm going to interrupt. I want to pull it back a little bit.
Yeah.
You grew up on a farm. What were you growing?
We were just doing cash crop, beans, wheat, and corn. Yeah,
nice.
And then we had poultry, so we had 6,000 egg layers too. So there was always lots of eggs. You always ate breakfast.
And so, big family, small family.
A brother who's my partner, and unfortunately can't be with us here today. He's with his family doing something. But my brother and my sister. So just the 3 of us. And we're all kind of in the agricultural world still to this day. We went off and did our education. My dad, he was my late father. He's gone now, but he really wanted us to get our education and get schooling to not become farmers. And yet here I am becoming a farmer, but I always wanted to be a drug dealer. So that worked out to my benefit. We're born, raised a small town, small beginnings, modest, we don't come from these big downtown, Bay Street places and families. And we didn't have like that backing to start these farms. So, we did a lot of bootstrapping, and we really, started from the ground up with, making sure that we could bring a really good, respectable product to the Canadian market, because there was a huge gap in it, and it exists today. And that's slowly changing with more and more micros coming online and people who can grow some really, good fire. And we thought, there's something here. We can do this, and we can do it cost effectively, and we can pump out a really good product too. Like ARADEN, and he's going to speak on the genetic side and the methodologies, but being able to execute that here, we're in the agricultural hub really of Canada. So I have access to all these organic amendments, like right at my fingertips, from like the potash, like the eco teas, gypsum, rocks, soft rock sulfate, phosphate. It's all right here. So it's really a good place to kind of start from an outdoor and applying like agricultural practices into this new industry, because by and large, it's we've been treated as pharmaceuticals, and you're growing it inside, and you're wearing, your beard nets, and you got hair nets, and you got gloves. Well, here my plants kind of just sit outside and they grow really well. And we're not reinventing a wheel here. You yourself, if you go into, California, Washington, Oregon, and you've talked to these really great growers and they're growing some incredible stuff and it's coming from outdoors. And it's an economics thing, where there's a reason why we don't grow sweet corn in a greenhouse. It creates a very high cost barrier for growing. So that's where we really wanted to leverage that in our agricultural background here. And I feel like we've had a really good year. The seed project was great. It was so much fun. And working with you guys, it was, we were so pumped, when we started engaging with you, and then meeting Ben and having those conversations. And I still remember sitting there and, I sat there and I smoked a bong and I can only smoke once in a while because I'm so stressed out with work. I get anxiety. So I got to do it at the end of the days and stuff. But I remember sitting there thinking, holy shit, what have I gotten myself into? We're working with one of these top breeders in the States. We got to execute this. Oh man, I was up all night. I was wound up, but we managed to pull it off and we had a great team doing it. Arden, he was instrumental in that, and your guidance, you and Ben helping us out along the way. It was fantastic, phenomenal. What a cool experience that was.
It was very, very cool to play a small role in that.
Yeah.
So you've had 2 seasons in the legal space. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So we'll be going into our 3rd season. Actually, we're prepping up. We're doing some breeding project right now inside, doing some crosses. We're going to do some pheno hunting coming up, making some seeds, getting ready to build up mother stock and clones and everything. And then, doing it all over again and re-executing some, hot fire.
So I'm just about to switch over to Arden, but were you one of the early applicants in the licensing program, or did you apply post October 17th, 2018?
We applied post. So actually we were in the planning stages. Probably, I think we really started to, because it took a long time with your permits and just kind of navigating the whole thing. The regulations it's absolutely daunting. And, and I think at the end I got some sage words of advice for people that want to follow in our footsteps. It was a heck of a process. So we didn't submit until I think it was June 2020, and then we had our license November 27th, 2020. So we didn't have a grow season that year. It was obviously being November, it was too late. So we started up in 2021 was our first year. And then 2022 last season. And sales have been going great, getting a lot of positive feedback. We finally got our buy pre-rolls and there's 7-gram milled baggies. We got a lot of exciting stuff planned too and releases. And the big one coming up, we ship, I think the 7th of February is the EML seeds. So we're going to get some cool beans out to the Canadian market because it fits, because we've tried finding gaps for our milled products and the pre-rolls because there was gaps in the market we're trying to fill. And the seeds are a huge one, and bringing quality genetics to our fellow Canadian growers that doesn't really exist. So we're going to kind of fit into that niche really well because, there's going to be growers out there and they're going to be like, holy cow, there's going to be Royal Kush. I don't have to put $500 in an envelope and send it to the States and get some beans back. This is going to be great. I can get all this for this much. It's going to be awesome.
Hopefully it's the start of a lot more of it.
Yeah.
I want to switch over to Arden and kind of just learn a little bit more about you. I know you're the lead cultivator at 7 Farms. And so I know you've probably been doing this for quite some time. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, Baker, where'd you grow up?
I was born in Windsor. I grew up in the heart of Essex County, outside of actual Essex. I kind of moved to the city around the end of elementary school, maybe 13 years old, 14 years old. And that's kind of where I started going to high school in the city of Windsor there. So
and what was cannabis like for you? When did that become, when did you become aware of the plant?
The plant, the first time I kind of smelled cannabis, I was really young. I smelled it and I was right away, what is that? I was hooked, but I was so young. It's years later, when that aunt or uncle would come over your mom's and you'd go to bed early and I'd smell it again. Right. So I'd go downstairs in the morning and like look in the ashtray, you know, like what was that smell? And like, but I probably smoked weed for the first time. I think we were about 12 years old, man. And then like I learned like it's a plant and stuff like that. But from a very young age, probably around like 6 years old, man, when I first smelt that smoke, I was hooked.
What was high school like for you? You know, did you enjoy school? Was it a pain in the ass? What was that like for you?
School was easy, man. It was too easy. Really, I was actually like getting everybody fucked up before school. I was, you know, selling 3 for $10 every morning, getting off the bus. You know what I mean? Let's get it. Everybody goes to school stoned. Yeah. So I went to school, man. I showed up.
So what was, you know, what came next for you? Like when you graduated high school, were you looking at post-secondary? Did you have a job lined up? What happened?
No, you know, that's kind of funny, man. I like did various things, like the typical teenager stuff, like landscaping, you know what I mean? Kicked around. No, I did more like job stuff. Like, I started working with a contractor mostly when I was like out of high school. Cause that kind of like, by then I was already growing, man. Like so it allowed like flexible hours. Like he knew the drill too. Like he used to grow, like he was like 40 and I was like, you know, 18. Like we were like rocking back then.
So when did you start growing? Who showed you? Like how'd that come about?
Initially, no one showed us. And that was a problem. That kind of delayed things quite a bit.
So I mean, what the first setup looked like? Like was it George
dude,
Grow Bible? Was it High Times? Where'd you get your info?
I was in grade 8. I found some seeds and some you know what I mean? Some seeded weed we had gotten, right? I put them in a brown paper towels, like in the baby jar with some water, right? Whatever. End up throwing dirt in there. Like they die, they dampened off. You know what I mean? Like they might have made it like 10 days once they popped, type deal before they keeled over. And but yeah, we were young. Like I didn't know we could grow it outside, like in our climate, until like probably about grade 9, grade 10. You know what I mean? Because like we started wising up some older high school cats that had it. You know, we were like, oh, like they got it. Like we were figuring out the cycle, right?
So were you starting to guerrilla grow at that point and like sneaking out and getting a patch, or like what that look like?
Nah, not really. Because like I grew up on a farm, and like I was like, I knew when the farmers were around, like not really, man. We were more interested in like growing like indoors. Like we were like reading High Times and shit like that. Like the gorilla, like that was like low quality. Like we seen better herb from like older heads that like grew, like they had like hydro setups in the hydro ton in their basement, you know, like a 1 liter growing like NL or something like that from back in the day. Like they'd always have like the funk. Like we knew, like, you know, there's a difference here. Like we were getting a lot of weed from out west, like before I finished high school too. Like we were trying to like push people on names of weed, and they're like, you know, they don't even know. They were overwhelmed, dude. Like I'm older than I look, so that was like really early, like, oh geez, man, really early 2000s, man.
So what came next for you? Like did it get to a point where after high school you were, you know, blowing up a house, or how did it?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure, dude. Like yeah, I think we were like, me and some, like we were lighting up spots, you know, like we were 17, man. You know, like it wasn't good product coming out, but when did we get our head on our shoulders and start like putting out stuff like that? Like anything that was like half decent was worth money. But like in our opinion, like we were trying to do, like, we wanted head stash, right? You know what I mean? We wanted what the old heads had that you couldn't get. You know, they're not going to sell it to you. You know, you might get a 40 bag that weighs like 2.5 grams.
So
like,
what was the progression like for you? Like, were you on the forums? Did you have books or access to heads that were providing you knowledge, or was it all trial and error and self-teaching?
Yeah, we were on the we would go over the forums and stuff, but there's always like a lot of like conflicting advice and shit like that. Mostly like we were more interested in like once we figured out genetics were the key to growing good weed, like that was our problem. Like we were starting with like crap, dude. Like on like well, I'm not gonna blast. I don't even know if they're still around, but like certain seed banks around Toronto around the time that had like, you know what I mean, reasonably priced seeds. Like, you know what I mean. That's never gonna put out a quality product. So we were kind of like once we figured out genetics were the key to like, you know what I mean, putting out some quads. Like that's kind of what we learned from the forums. Really, like okay, like you know, we were starting to order seeds from like reputable breeders and not just companies that say they have this or that. You know what I mean? Because everybody has it.
Were you trying to access the community and get cuts, or was that completely out of your mind and it was purely focused on pheno hunting from seed that you've acquired?
Not seed, man. Because we were always like one of the things like we learned about like, you know, you could bring crap in on cuts and stuff like that. So it was kind of like, you know, we're gonna start, you know, clean. Like we're not gonna deal with any of that shit. So I mean, that probably like inhibited progress a bit. But yeah, like the first stuff that we was from Sirius, man, and some TGA stuff that was really fire. I think like the stuff from Sirius that was really good was we found a cut in the White Russian that was just it was nuts, man. It was like white weed when it was finished, super frosty, very chronic, man.
And what else? Any others that stand out from the packs you looked through back then?
You know what? For terps, like TGA, like so some of the early stuff was coming out like a Subcools camp back in the early 2000s, man. Like when we got some of that stuff, that was like, wow, like we didn't know like we could taste like some of these things that was coming, like the candy stuff. We were more used to like you know, piney or like woody kind of, you know what I mean, stuff like that. But yeah, some of those sweeter terps were kind of blew our minds, man, when we had those sorted out.
And so what came next? Like what was the progression after, you know, lighting up a few houses? Were you like at what point did outdoor come on your radar as a viable opportunity? Was that much later or was that fairly short after the house?
No, we like eventually tried it out, like, you know what I mean, you and a buddy, because it's a bit of work, and it never shook out really, man. Something would happen, you know. Something's always happening. It's just like a house was like, okay, we can, you know, we know what's going to happen with a house. There's a couple things that'll happen. That's about it. But the outdoor was like, just seemed kind of risky, as in terms of like someone's going to steal your crop before it's done, you know.
Yeah, no, there's always that. There's animals. You
know,
know,
that too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so what happened after that? Like, is it, you know, what was when did you connect with Jason?
Oh, geez, man, probably 2019, I think.
Yeah, 18.
I don't know. They were like, before they got their license, it was kind of an odd thing. Like, I'd actually moved to a new house back towards family because I'd kind of worked away from Windsor a bit. And whatever. So it just by fluke, really, I gave some weed to a local guy that I knew, just because I was always doing that, like giving people chronic, like, here, man, try this. Tell me what you think, right? Like, I'd whip some shit up and give it to people, and I ask for feedback, right? Because if I sit in my own bubble smoking all my own weed most of the time, you know, it's like, of course I'm going to be partial, like think my weed's the best, or, you know what I mean? Really good.
Yeah, no, for sure. So Jason,
the weed ended up on my desk.
Yeah.
We're like,
so
okay.
You saw that bag, and were you just like, we have to meet this guy, or like, how did?
Absolutely, because we were talking to other growers that were going to come in, because we were still planning. we were trying to find like somebody that could help us on the genetics and growing side, like bring some more expertise. Because yeah, like I had thrown stuff just out in cornfields and like just grew it. Like I wasn't very scientific. I was busy always working, like, so yeah, so we were like, well, we gotta sit down and meet this guy. And I think first time we met, it was like, 9 o'clock in the morning. We're having coffees and smoking doobies, and we're like, yeah, this is the guy. Like this, yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Baker, were you planning or like entertaining a transition into legal cannabis, or was that something that just naturally came up and worked out?
Oh, no, for sure. It was on my radar. Like, it's always like, I've been like, even as like licenses change from like the MMAR to like the ACMPR, like the big case, like the Allard case or whatever, I think it was, I believe, that kind of flipped that whole thing. It's like, okay, like it's on now, basically. Like once that dropped, it was like, okay, like everybody and their mother is like, this is going to be like a huge wave. Like, so if you're not on like the top of your game, you're going to get left behind.
100%.
Like that was my look on it, right? Like, you're going to have the quality, man. Like it's it. Quality over everything.
100%. So where did your outdoor cultivation experience begin? Like, was your first true run at 7 Farms Down, or had you been cultivating outdoor prior to that?
Well, no, when I moved out to my spot here, like a few years prior to like those guys, I saw like an opportunity and a gap in the market. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to take cuts and put them in a field and pull down good weed. It ain't happening. It don't work like that. Like you have to breed, you got to work like lines, you got to test lines, like you got to like put them in the environment. Like ideally you should bred in the environment in which you're going to use the plants, but you know what I mean? Like that's not a luxury everyone can enjoy.
Mm-hmm. So were you working lines in those years leading up to?
Yeah, like I was already like on like plant breeding and like looking to make like commercially viable, like good weed commercially viable. You know what I mean? Like outdoor, like at scale, like like I knew like I saw an opportunity, like I knew where like outdoor guys were going to be coming online too. Like once that came out too, because eventually it was like, oh, like, I don't think there were any outdoors until a couple of years after the big boys got fired up with their big indoor grows, right?
Yeah, no.
But I saw it coming, and I was like, I don't know, something to do.
Yeah, so the genetics, he was working outdoors just down the street, basically. Well, probably like seven highways over. Yeah, it was already like kind of tempered to our climate. Like it really, yeah, because then even when we were in pre licensing stages, we were running that actually down at the other farm because we didn't want to put anything on site without a license. So we were doing like just our personal stuff there. And we were testing it and stuff was coming back, and we even set a plan up. We didn't give it any love, man. We didn't even water the stuff, and it still tested at like 21% THC at the end of the year. We were blown away. We're like, wow, the stuff's yeah. Compared to what I remember the work it would take to bring a nice quality flower, like something that you're growing outdoors, and you're like, and it comes in and it's just dense as hell. Like it's very hard and like it. Most people can't figure out that it's even been grown outdoors. Like the honest truth is, most people think it's hydro, which is like it's a compliment to you.
No, it's true, man. You see it like not all plants will produce like commercially viable means a lot of different things, and like like you want hard dense buds like throughout the plant. Like obviously, man, like everybody wants these things, but to get them like. You know what I mean? A certain climate and environment, like it takes some work. And I know I was already on the genetics tip from like, 15 years or more, like that I knew knowing. So it's like, I just had plants that I'd liked and kind of did some breeding work. And I have a hoop house here, and I use the native soil in there, right? I made some amendments, but yeah, it's mostly clay in there as well.
What were the building blocks of those genetics that you were working with, Baker?
Oh, the big one, like I'm not gonna like out everything, but the big one and like the most like predominant one for me would be it's the cherry boat, which is a weird name. My friend names it because I don't name weeds. I literally give them numbers and like letters and numbers. It's, you know, I'm not a big like naming dude. So, but yeah, cherry boat. So it was an 11-week pink kush, like some just ridiculous pink kush, man. Like the one, like super narcotic and like heady, like addicting taste, like very greasy though. You know, like the resin heads weren't like you touch the weed and they would kind of melt, right? Like by the time you're cutting all that weed up, like you don't really see the resin, but the weed's kind of like darkened up a shade or two because it's soaked up all the resin, right? Which is cool, but I mean, from a commercial point of view, like that's not going to fly. Like you're not going to be able to baby a plant and, you know what I mean, not touch it like you can on a small indoor crafts operation, dude. And that's cool. Like that's where it's at, right? But at scale, man, like, you know what I mean? You got to have stuff that's going to hold up, man. You know, like resin heads are one of those things.
Absolutely, 100%. I want to talk a little bit about cultivation methodology. So you said you had some hoops at your place and you were utilizing native soil. You know, are you feeding with any specific methodology in mind, like KNF or Jadam, or how are you digging out your holes before you're planting? Or are you just going straight into the compacted native soil?
Yeah, so we do like a mixture of things. Like we apply basically most organic amendments. We have like fabric pots in the front, 100-gallon fabric pots. We did a custom built soil on that, which was a huge undertaking. It seems so easy, but you got to test soil from multiple buyers, and you got to basically scatter all the way across the freaking province just to get some topsoil that's clean. Luckily our dirt here was, so that was easy, but we did that. We did raised beds as well. We got some hoop houses. We tried light dep in the first year. And then we also have stuff that's just right into the native soil and on raised beds as well. So we have a few different methodologies, and we're still going to keep kind of working with all of them as we move forward. You know, just kind of seeing where the winners are. Certain strains do like different things, but definitely growing in the native soil is probably one of the more preferred methods at this time for us. And so it's just at scale, and we're not really big. Like we're only a few acres here, so like because honestly our team's pretty small. We got to be able to like still do most of the labor ourselves at scale, growing in the native soil and living organics. Like it definitely seems to be the way we're moving, and one of our more preferred option. I'm sure Arden can shed a lot more light on that. He's definitely got his pulse to it a lot more than I do.
Arden, do you want to jump in? Oh, you're muted there.
Oh yeah, you cut out for a bit. I think I dropped the signal. What was the question again?
Just your cultivation methodology. I know you're utilizing native soils, and Jason was touching on you have some 100 gals fabric pots in the front. You know, just wanted to learn a little bit more about what the farm looks like. Like, how are you guys irrigating? Are you set up on drip tape, or what's that look like?
Oh, well, I'm not sure because I didn't hear what he said. So if I repeat some stuff, I'm sorry. Basically, we like monitor the soil really closely. Like we're always like testing the soil and also doing like tissue tests on the plant. Like once the plants reach a certain point for after we put them outside, because like we are under the impression we're putting them out in pretty good standing. So after about a couple weeks, we do our first tissue test on the plants. And we have drip tape upon, like we do like rainwater collection, like whatever, like try to collect as much, like whenever we get as much rain, it runs into the pond. Like, so on the 100-gallon pots, we're using spray stakes. They're not my preferred method, really. I like the drip tape. I find with the spray stakes, especially when the plant gets big, you got a lot of trapped moisture under there. And sometimes you might not get. I don't like moisture near the stalk of the plant. Like on a big full term plant, I don't want water there on a daily basis. Like it's not for me. It's too high risk. It's a big plant. There's a lot of investment there. Like I prefer drip tape, but on a 100-gallon pot, it's kind of hard to put drip tape.
Yeah, for sure. What have been, some of the struggles that you guys have undergone as you scaled up on the farm? Like, were there some unanticipated things that jumped out at you that maybe caught you off guard? Jason's
well, basically, like, I wouldn't say off guard. Like, I at least, like, I was well informed of like all the things, like even like bugs coming and going, like on the wind. Like we got to deal with like seasonal like corn borers and like different kind of like moth larvae, right? That generally like feed on corn, but they'll also come like stalk borer, right? Like, like you get those in your crop, and generally they come in, and for our stuff, it's kind of flowering. It's just starting to, so like they get into a big stalk, and like obviously we want to get in there and get after it. But like just on the wind, right? If the wind patterns start coming in from the south, that like temperatures are like, a certain way, like we are like preemptive, and you know what I mean? Like biological, like we use a lot of biologicals. Like no, like we're watching weather too, man. Like temperatures, like we're well aware, like everything. Like we are outside, you're at risk, right? You're at will of like Mother Nature's. She owns you.
Yeah, we're in a very windy spot, so I grossly underestimated how windy it was going to be to hold up these monster plants. Like how many stakes posts I was going to be putting into this farm. Holy smokes, I did not see that one coming. I thought, and when they got big, like some of the big trees in those 100-gallon pots, oh boy, that created a whole other set of issues. But we managed to deal with it. But whoa, yeah, doing a lot of T-posts, pounding a T-post in. A lot of them.
So your first season, you cultivated the cherry boat, which is a pink kush pheno or selection that does well outdoors.
It's a lot more than that.
It's a lot more than that. That's all that Baker will tell us about it.
No, like that was like the start of like the cherry boat line, and like I can tell you about that side of things. Like that's cool. But like there's a workhorse on like, like I'll tell you like most of the bits.
Tell us
right?
what you can tell us, bro. We're interested.
Yeah, okay. Well, basically, seeds never came this weed, right? The 11-week pink kush, like these guys were growing it for quite a while. Like they wouldn't even like, this is one of the only cuts like I'd ever asked for, right? And like they weren't giving it up, right? Because this stuff demands like premium even to this day. So they weren't giving it up back then because they knew its worth. So basically, like we bought pounds and pounds of that weed. Like it was bad stuff because like we'd smoke it like crazy. Like it was terrible because it was hard on the pocketbook, and you wouldn't get shit done. You just sit there and smoke this fucking pink kush all day, right? So sure as shit, man. One of the last ounces I got from my buddy, that he had like a quarter, like we had split on a pea, and like he smokes a lot slower than me. So I swindled an ounce off him. He had a quarter. I was like, hey man, fuck him out. He's like, so whatever. I swindled an ounce off him. The guy charges me $220. I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, anyway, but I got one seed in there, dude, and I was like, oh, whatever. I want to rock with this seed. Like I've done it before. I've rocked with bag seed. I know generally it's crap, but so anyway, I turned out to be an amazing girl. She finished up in no more than 55 days, man. It was like done like dinner. It had like white resin heads from like, I don't know, man. As soon as they started to form, basically, like a couple weeks in, these resin heads were just white. And they never wanted to turn amber. Like I ran the plant like later from clone. Like I ran it 9 weeks. Like it was done just under 8 weeks. I'm like, wow, like this is where it's at. It kind of had the same buzz, but like the mind was like more clear. You know what I mean? Like I could smoke this weed and I could function. Like I'd get up, you know what I mean? It's like it was super interesting, man. So what happened that I was into some Top Dog gear at the time, and I was already kind of like messing around with other breeding projects and trialing in air, and because I'd popped so many seeds, a lot of time it wasn't better gear than like some of like the crosses or like little projects that we do at home. So I found a really nice male, like probably I think I got a pack and it had quite a few males in there that could have been on me basically.
What top dog pack?
Cherry Chem.
Okay.
So it was a Chem 91 BX crossed to Cherry Pie, right? Like, so I was like, the whole thing, like once I got a Rinley genetics, like I was like, okay, like if you want to get something and you're not getting in the original cut, you got to get seeds from somebody that like is in that original like circle, right? That in that crew. So JJ, like he's a genetics junkie, like he's not using like whatever, like the Cherry Pie he used. I think I even talked to him about it. He's like, yeah, man, like I use the Cherry Pie. He's like, there's only one. Like the cut that made the whole, you know what I mean, line
for sure
noteworthy. So yeah, basically. So once that cross happened, it just it kind of let me up, because the weed that came out of that was some crazy stuff too, man. Like in my opinion, like I didn't really like that weed because it was too strong.
What did the Cherry Chem bring to the pink bag seed?
Oh, dude, super earthy, like dank cherry. You know what I mean? And some sour and some that weren't sour. Most of them were kind of sour. And then some that weren't. And I don't really have to say how they weren't sour. They just weren't sour. You know what I mean? But the ones that weren't sour were probably a little more sweeter and not so earthy leaning on the cherry side. So I sifted through lots of those, dude. I probably sifted through 100 plants of that lot, right? And I pulled some just crazy plants, man. I think 4. I think I pulled 4. Hold on. Yeah. 4 out of that lot. Out of that 100 plants, I pulled 4 females. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, like I was like breaking my brain trying to even like decipher like which one is better. But like these were some standout girls. And like why, in my opinion, is because they were different. Like I didn't like that the initial population on that first cross, on like a first hybrid with the boat is what it was called, that bag seed from the Pink Kush. My friend named it the boat. It actually was called the Dream Boat, but that was just too long for me, so we just called it the boat. And that was popping for a while, dude, and like that was getting some top dollar, just like that pink. That was getting lots of love up in the Golden Triangle. Like but anyway, out of that lot I picked 4 exceptional girls, and they were different from that original, like that mostly population with those dank cherry notes. I picked the 25, and it ran a little longer. It ran about 9 weeks. Huge golf ball nug, super frosted out, like kind of like a mothball Pink Kush notes on that. The 32 was exactly the same as her, but she, like initially when I had the first seed run, they were like exactly the same, and I kept both of them because the 25 was lankier and the 32 had a more tighter like internal structure. She was more sturdy. Like the 25 kind of grew like that kind of more of a classic OG, like a little lanky kind of action. So the 32 and the 25, like I thought they were like the same plant, just a little bit structurally different. What was it? 12 and was it so 12? What was it, Jason? The 12?
12.
And what's the other one?
20, we did the 25S1, the 12.
No, but yeah, the 25S1, the 12, the 32, 25, and there's something else. So there's one other one. Anyway, the 12 was a fruity one, I think.
Yeah, the 12 had the berries, remember?
Yeah, and then there's another one.
We had the number 4.
That's also like different. I'm
Yeah.
stuttering right now because I can't think of the number. And once I get the number, I'll get like the profiles on each one right. But anyway, they were different, right? So I had these 4 girls out of that lot. And then I took the 25. That girl was so crazy. I S1 that plant right away. And I sifted through there because on that lot, like I knew that that 25 or the 32. I did the 25 first because my preference for inside. So that I want to make more seeds in case I lose this plant. And I was already on like trying to breed sturdy plants like that are going to grow well outdoors. And I knew these guys when I had those 25 sifts. So I pulled a plant that was like, I was on that anyway. So I pulled a plant out of that 25, which was a lanky, that lanky one that was like tight.
You pulled the plant
and held up well. Like
you pulled that out of the S1 of the 25.
Yeah, because the 25 was a lanky, like she was a lanky girl of the bunch, and a lot of that gene pool, like there was a lot of lanky plants in there. I pulled one for structure and just a really nice smell, like fruity, like a gassy fruit smell.
And what
kind of like
this is previous to connecting with Jason?
No, like I was already working on some of those lines, but that's like when I did that 21 or the the 25S1 sift, I knew these guys at that time.
Okay.
But I was like on some, you know what I mean? Like I was already on my mission here.
20, and the other one was the 21. We forgot there was the 21.
Yeah, the 21, the 12 and the 21. So the 12 was fruity, like berries and stuff, and the 21 was I think she was the one from the General Pop, that earthy dank cherry. That was the best one of that, because I was like, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna not like move it along with the rest of them because I didn't like it. Like everyone else loved that shit. For me, I thought like I was too strong. Like there's some stuff. I smoked some stuff way back in the day we grew from Mandala Seed Company called Hashberry, dude. And people loved this weed. Like it was super medicinal. And I like, if I smoked too much of it, or if I smoked it like normal, like I used to get kind of nauseous, man. Like I forget what it was. Like it was some hippie stuff. They said they got from like a bag seed. They got from a guy in San Francisco, like back in the 60s. I forget. It was called Hashberry from Mandala Seeds, though. Like way back in the day, we grew that, like early 2000s too.
I've definitely
that was one of those weeds. I was like, this is kind of too strong. I don't know. I don't feel good off this one. Yeah,
there's definitely some strong ones out there, and definitely with like flower profiles, you can get some really, really interesting stuff that hits you really different. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's probably more the terp profile that's kind of rubbing me the wrong way.
Yeah,
because I love me some strong weed. Like that's what I'm about.
So you guys, now that we've kind of established, which is really cool, and I really enjoyed going through that, the cherry boat lineage, was that the exclusive cultivar that you were growing for your first commercial crop, or were you growing all the different phenos that we were just talking about in different plots? Like how did that work on the first year in commercial cultivation?
Well, I can answer it, or he can. Well, as I'm sure you know, but maybe not everyone knows watching, like the legal landscape is like pretty complex, right? Like if you're not like a big company, like and you don't really have connections coming into the market, like, you're not really sure what you want to do. Like, do you want to grow a whole bunch of a certain cultivar? Do you want to kind of spread your cards out a bit here? Like, like what about harvest labor? Like, do you have the manpower at the time to pull this huge lot? Like, there's a lot of things that like, whatever, like we consider, like all the, you know what I mean? And it's, like that's stuff we got to plan for too, right? Like,
well, yeah.
So we grew a few different cultivars to answer your question. Yeah. If you want to get into it, how many did we grow, Jason? I don't remember.
Like, there was God, there might have been 20 different cuts. Like
too many.
Yeah, tons.
Let's just say that, too many.
And so where did that decision came from, Jason? Like, you know, as the co-founder and lead on this project, you know, what was your assumptions going into it as a business owner? And
well, I think what we really wanted to do is try, like, and Arden was really excited about all these other cuts because he had this, like, they're all proven strains, they're great. And then just trying to see where they kind of worked on our farm and how they took to our like grow methodologies here. And, you know, we always get some winners and you got some losers. But it was just a lot to manage.
Hey, we didn't just grow my stuff though. Don't be blasting my
no.
Listen, whose stuff are we still growing?
Your stuff. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it was. We really had to get that spread out, and and then and then we had hoop houses, and you know what? Hoop houses are so difficult, and we're better off growing out in the open air, man. Like, because then you get into the microclimates, and you're dealing with humidity levels. So yeah, we just wanted to kind of have that all spread out, and we kind of all decided together as a team what we were going to, run with, and we ran with it. And then we're really starting to hone in, and Arden's really like focusing in on these certain strains, and then putting together. He's got like a roadmap actually for the next couple years on, especially what's happening in the markets in the States, and we're kind of what direction the Canadian market's heading in, and where we want to go. Kind of road mapped out.
Well, I think you got to stay relevant in this game, man. Like, you can't just keep like beating a dead horse. Like, it's not nothing's a dead horse, but you know what I mean. What's the term? Like, I don't know. I think this weed, it cycles quicker probably than like any other product, man. Yeah. Like, I don't know what, like, alcohol sticks around for years and years. Most of that shit, man. Like, but weed, it's a couple of years. I think
that the mistakes that we're looking back on in hindsight, or I know for a fact as somebody who's worked with a lot of micros across Canada, is that initially the assumption was that getting different SKUs to market wasn't going to encompass so many barriers to entry. And so we thought as small craft cultivators that it would be better to have a small amount of a number of different things than a large amount of one thing. But what happened was there was so much regulation and red tape that when you really got down to it, one of the most complicated things in getting a product to market is getting a new SKU and then being able to maintain and hold that listing. And so having 5 kilos of something is really not as valuable as having 60 kilos of something. And so I think that mistake was shared by a lot and really felt by a lot of the small scale cultivators. And you guys were able to work with, I believe it was Cody Colson and his group, and create a great product that got to market. And, there were a lot of individuals that are still sitting on that product from that season. So I think it's, a testament to the quality and care that you put into your work that, that was able to be put into a solventless vape pen, which, is not every material can be made into a solventless vape pen. So I think that's really cool. I want to talk about the Emerald Mountain Legacy partnership. Was that something that was seed reproduction on your radar? You guys have been able to really cover a lot of ground as a small group, get a lot of different SKUs, between your milled flour, your pre-rolls, the seeds that are going to be hitting the market. Was that always the vision, or was that a result of learning the market and adjusting to that?
I think, to be honest, like, I think it's something that it was lacking. Like, I looked at like seeds, like the legal, like what was available to like the general public going in the store or online or whatever, right? And it's like, what is this? Like, most of the stuff it's not what it is. You know what I mean? Like, show me, you know what I mean? Like, show me that this is what it is, because you're just selling people snake oil as far as I'm concerned when you like mislabel shit. Like, I don't. So anyway, I just I thought it would be cool. these guys probably thought the same thing. Like I was trying to get on the Royal Kush for a long time. Like when that stuff initially kind of dropped, and like it was kind of like search, like it was hard to get, man. Like packs would go fast, like they were expensive. You know what I mean? Like if you were getting them resale, you're paying like 1,200 Canadian. You know what I mean? For sure. Like if you know what I mean, and you're not gonna find one. Like, but like as like how the seed market kind of progressed and everything, like yeah, there's a lot of seeds out there, and like I just don't think a lot of guys pushing the stuff over here. Like they're selling it and marketing it as maybe something it's not, in my opinion. Like I'm gonna maybe get some of these seeds and we'll grow them out this year and see what's what. We'll grow some of the Royal gear with some of this other stuff that's on the market, and like whatever, let's see what's good here.
So you guys did 3 reproductions in partnership with Ben at Emerald Mountain. Can you name those 3 cultivars that are going to be coming to market in seed form?
Yeah, well, the Royal Kush, BX6, I believe. Is that correct?
Yep.
Royal Wedding and the Rosé. So, yeah.
That's very cool. I commend you guys for seeing that sort of long-term vision of going, hey, I think a lot of groups that were in the early licensing phase in Canada romanticized how easy it would be to establish and build a brand that has, trust and legacy to it. And I think seeing that initially and being like, no, this is a great opportunity, because, we were talking with a number of different groups, but it became very apparent very quickly how seriously you guys were, taking the opportunity and how quickly we could move through, conversations, that it was like, this is the right group to work with. And ultimately the seeds have been produced, the selections have been made, and they're going to come to market. So I'm really excited. Like, were you, like, how well suited did you find that Emerald gear to Southern Ontario, to that kind of more harsh climate that, you have to, hunt for?
Oh, to be honest, dude, it was great, man. There was especially outdoors, man.
Yeah,
it's solid gear, Nat. And then like I'd put it up against anything on the Canadian rec market, like that you can go buy on the website or like whatever, your dispensary. Like I put it up against a lot of gear, dude. Like that stuff's, it's, you know what I mean? Listen, it's still being sold and like made for a reason. Like it's relevant, right? Like the Royal Kush is like, it's no joke. Like you want some strong like gas, like that's what you want. Like Royal Wedding, like it's wedding cake, right? So it's a different profile. And then obviously the Royal Kush, like you're getting more like sweet notes. Like depends, like like what you're into. Like there's a little bit of everything. And the Rosé, you're gonna find definitely more like sweeter, fruitier stuff. Like that's Skittles and Royal Kush.
Yeah. They're resilient plants. They
Yeah, they are. They're beautiful plants, man. They're nice.
Have any issues. They're easy to work with.
So I want to touch more on your guys' experiences as small business owners in the legal system in Canada. So, what were your expectations coming in, and what were kind of the harsh realities that you had to face? Like, I think that this kind of stuff needs to be talked about more. It's almost at a point where us as industry participants are so numb to it that we're not really even bringing it up in open conversation, because we know what we're subjected to. But I think you guys have a really front row seat to the trials and tribulations that legalization has been. And so I'd love to get your opinions on, what your thoughts were coming in versus what the true realities were once you were in it.
I think one of the big things is everyone's led into the direction that they're going to wholesale flower at the drop of a hat. And they were going to get, big dollars on a per gram basis that doesn't really exist. And it might have back in 2015 or 16, sure. But that doesn't really, kind of stand true anymore. So the big guys, and there's a definite oversupply of product out there that's flooded the market, absolutely. So you really got to separate yourself, like with our genetics and Arden, like you got to kind of put your best foot forward and have something good to bring, and we have that to offer, like the genetic side. And like to say, I've learned more about weed probably having like 10 conversations with Arden than I've learned my whole friggin' life. Like, and that's a real thing that this industry really needs, is to let these, the guys like the Ardens, that are the true legacy craft guys. Sure, I was part of the legacy. I was just throwing weed out in there, and I was growing larf, and I loved it at the time, and I was buying tons of it. And God forbid if I ever bought a bag of weed and I knew what it was, because it cost twice as much, because it was Blue Dream, or it's White Widow. But bringing quality genetics to this industry is really, like, I know I've talked to people and they're like, oh, you know what, I think we're going to get into growing weed, and I'm thinking, you know what, if you don't have your pulse.
Listen, we still see it now, man. We still people come like entering entering the market, like some of like the seed declarations or whatever you call them. Like, I'm like what do you plan on doing with, like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like, whatever, man.
I think
we got a big
pheno hunting is. I think pheno hunting is wildly romanticized. I think that is one of the things that draws. It's almost one of the pitfalls of a lot of these corporate suits, is they go, oh, well, we've got a bunch of seed, we're going to just get started, hit the ground running, we're going to find something in a cycle, and we're going to go. And
listen,
understanding that you could
can't
spend
polish a turd, man,
and have nothing. So I think we both have gone through that and understand it. So I think that understanding where do you feel genetics are going right now, and for the last 10 years, even the most tightly held genetics are accessible. And you and I kind of, it hasn't been, and I'm sure there's absolutely exceptions to that statement, but for the most part, genetics have moved pretty freely. Do you feel, and I'm specifically talking about cuts, do you feel as though genetics are going to start to be more tightly held to be leveraged for brand differentiation, or do you think you can't prevent those genetics from moving the way that they've been for the last decade?
Well, like, to be honest, the people make the weed famous. You know what I mean? Like, so if you don't get it out to the people, like, how is it ever going to make a wave? How you going to, you know what I mean? Like, are you, like, so you got to, like, maybe keep your circle smaller, but I mean, you still got to put it out there, man, unless, you know what I mean? Unless you got no, I think you got to put stuff out, man, like different parts of the globe or whatever, man, at least North America, like, it's a big country, man, even Canada, right?
Yeah.
So
what's Seven Farms plan moving forward, from last year to this new season? Is it still have multi projects? Are you honing in on different product lines? Like, what's the plan moving forward, Jason?
We're definitely honing in on the genetics, and then we're releasing new SKUs coming up. And overall, what our plan is to grow a whole bunch of really good dope and move it. That's like the ultimate, like, that's the big play here. And that's what we want to have, these tons of these great buds. And we want to know on a weekly basis that it's actually sold and moving. And we're achieving that finally right now. The sales are going great. Feedback has been, just positive all around. That for us is the big win, is seeing smiles when someone comes up to me and is like, hey, I bought your pre-rolls, man, and they were great. Like, this is, man, it's just like, wow, we put our heart and soul into this, and, we worked our absolute tails off to get that flower to market. And it's kind of nice to finally see a little bit of the light at the end of that tunnel. We're going to keep rolling off of these successes, and that's it. Like, I don't think Arden wants to try 20 different genetics next year, because he already kind of knows we're just going to grow a handful because it's easier for us, and having larger lots individually is economically more viable from the commercial standpoint. And I'm sure, Arden, you want to add to this? Like,
well, I mean, the first year, like, I didn't have as much say as I had the second year. So the first year, like, whatever. Like, I'll throw people on the bus, but whatever, man. It was
Yeah.
rough. Like, I bit my tongue most of the time, but like, I don't know, man. I did curse some people out. Let's just say that, right? Like, fuck you doing, man? You know what I mean? Like,
business.
I don't care if it's inside or outside. Like, you know what I mean? I just want to treat like the plants, man. Like, the plants come first. You know what I mean? Like, the soil comes first. You know what I mean? Like, in our case, the soil. Like, we got to use the soil every year, man. You know what I mean? Like, we want to keep it in like top condition. We want to make it better every year. You know what I mean? So we get a better product, you know, like every year. Like, we don't want to see like a decline in quality. Like, every year, like, we're going to get better. Like, so the first year is like all the wrinkles got ironed out. Like, this year, everything's on point.
Only
for
up from
sure.
there. I wanted to ask you, Arden, about a comment you made about a leaf analysis. Are you testing bricks, or what are you testing for with your leaf analysis?
You know, we do look at bricks from time to time, but no, like nutrient, you know, saturations and things of that nature.
And what do you can you give us an example of something that you observe nutrient saturation test, and then how you would, you know, correct that? Is that a top dress? What's that look like?
No, generally, the best way, like, this goes for anybody, man. You're growing inside, you're growing in a tent outside. Like, if somehow you identify a nutrient deficiency, it's legitimate and it's not a root zone issue. You know what I mean? You know, fusarium or something's chewing on your stalk, like whatever. Like, if it's legitimate, a foliar application is the way to go. You know what I mean? Like, but you need to like identify that, and then like, a lot of deficiencies look the same. You know, especially like, it's a little more pronounced, like inside. I think like the definition between, but like outside, at least, like it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe when the feet, like a leaf gets deficient, and it's like it's not as durable outside. You know what I mean? So like, it, like, you might think you got like this kind of issue when really like it's just this you got to sort out, but the leaf's not happy, the plant's not happy, you know. Like, but this year we didn't see too much. We were on top of everything. Like, the first year we saw lots, and we were chasing our tails lots. You know, it wasn't fun, dude. I wasn't a happy camper. You can ask this guy. Like, I was like, dude, like, I don't yeah, like, I'm like the drill sergeant when I rolled in there the first year. Like, I was much more chill and laid back, because they were like, listen, like, what do you think, dude? Like, you know, they like wanted to listen to me more, right? I didn't have to like slam my fist down and say, listen, you know what I mean? Like, the fuck are you doing?
Sometimes it takes that season to kind of proof is in the pudding style.
Yeah, we had a lot of kinks to work out.
That's that boot camp season. Yeah, season 1 boot camp for sure.
Yeah, we got whipped.
Yeah, man, we were on it though, man. These guys, that's 100%. That's true. Like, this year, that it was running on point big time, man. And like, we're, you know, last year we were looking at a wholesale, like the wholesale side of things. Like, we didn't do like you know, there's like a whole thing, man. Like, product submission on some of these provinces, like where we are in Ontario, like it takes a few months, dude. It's a few stages. Like, there's a, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I want to sell this in the dispensary in Ontario. Like, no, you got to get picked up first.
Yeah, it's a long process.
And if you don't got a quality, you're not going to get picked up, man. I mean, especially as the market gets tighter and tighter.
Yeah, my biggest issue with Canadian cannabis is that they inserted government workers into our supply chain in probably the most crucial part, which is distribution.
Listen, I'm not blasting those government bodies, but I agree with you 100%, dude. They're the only ones that are making the big bucks here. Like, they're just, I think they're taking money out of the producer's pocket and the consumers 100%. And it's BS.
In my opinion,
that's it.
In my opinion, they should insert themselves into the chain, but it should be in testing, because if everything's compared apples to apples,
that's a lucrative business in itself. You're right.
Sure. And they can
that for sure. That's a great idea.
The relying on government employees to distribute very highly valuable product and list it and get diversity to market, is you're not going to have as good of a system as if you privatize it. It's just, I'm ready to take that argument on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as the years go on. I really hope that eventually that aspect gets privatized and we can have more unique products come to market in smaller batches and lower listing fees. But right now, that's what we're stuck with. I commend you guys for, kind of coming into it with a B2B business plan, and then realizing that you have to put the work in and, get the processing license, or partnership in place, get the products made and to market, and get the listing, and go play golf with whoever you need to, or whatever it is, not saying you did that, but, kiss whatever baby, fill out whatever form, because there's not a lot of percentage left after the government takes their pound of flesh. So if you're not willing to go that extra mile, it's an even thinner margin. So I commend you guys for going that extra mile. And I think, brand identity and equity, as well as your secured path of distribution to the market, is going to be the most important thing going forward as the industry tools up and writes itself, and more money and more big business comes into it. I think having that brand recognition, and I commend you guys for doing that and getting products to market and doing stuff like this to get your story out, because it's going to be important. And, once you have that identity with the consumer, you're a lot harder to squeeze than you are if you're a no-name brand. So I think that doing stuff like this and getting your name out there, and Baker telling his story, anybody listening to Baker knows what the fuck he's talking about, and he's been doing this. So you just need about 60 seconds with him. And,
exactly.
You'll be able to figure that out real quick. So I think that's really cool. I wanted to, kind of, as we wrap up things, ask what your advice is. Like, what can you pass on to people trying to follow and do what you're doing that will save them time, energy, pain, and money?
Find your Arden and fucking listen to them. Find somebody.
I would say the best thing, from me, basically, the one thing I didn't plan on for myself, which I'm all about, business and all that, but I mean, the business side of things, you know what I mean? Generally, in the legacy side, if you're putting out chronic, it's going to move, man. You don't got to go and find somebody to buy it, or apply to a board to get it accepted so the stores can buy it. You know what I mean? It's gone. You grow it, you do your thing, it's gone. But on this side of things, you got to, pick your place. You know what I mean? So we picked our first couple spots, and we got our eyes on some other stuff, to be honest. I would say for people that want to get into the business, find somebody that's in the business. You know what I mean? Find some time with them. You know what I mean? If they'll give you their ear, you know what I mean, and answer your questions honestly, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. There's a lot, but once you grasp all that stuff, you understand exactly what you need to do.
Yeah. I see a trend in businesses where, and it's more magnified the more old white guys are involved in it, but there's this cycle of finding the right guy, and then that guy is identified and brought onto the team, and then there's a timeline before that guy is listened to, and that could be anywhere from 3 months to 2 years, and that guy's just sitting there going, I'll say whatever you need. I've given my 2 cents. It's not being absorbed. And I think that eventually that person is identified and truly listened to, and then cultivation quality starts increasing, or output increases, and they've identified, okay, well, we need to continue to follow this person. So I think that that is sound advice for anyone, to find an operator who knows quality. And if you don't know how to recognize that yourself, you need to hire somebody who knows how to recognize it to go out and get that person for you. Because, you know, I can't hire a good process flow engineer for plastic extrusions, because that's not the world that I live in. And so I wouldn't be able to tell an imposter from a real plastic extrusion ninja. And so I would need to hire that consultant, and it would be pigheaded of me to think that I would be able to recognize that person. And that's what's happening a lot in cannabis is you've got these corporate suits going, oh, well, this is our cultivator. Because my friend I golf with buys that guy's weed.
Yeah.
And it's like,
oh man, we still see it today, 100%, man. And it's like, if you get your guy in there, like, well, like, I don't want to be giving these big corporate guys like tips, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to sharpen their, you know what I mean? They already got enough jump start on us small guys, dude. But like, we're coming for next. So
and you know, that's what happens, and getting out there and communicating and identifying with other people like you and going, you know what, we're not going to share this out in the open, but we're going to pick up the phone and call each other. And when stuff works or doesn't work, we're going to communicate that. Like, I mean, I think that trying to remove this idea that we need to completely stay isolated and you know, our own islands, because those big corporate guys aren't. Those calls, those busy schedules they have all day, that's just them communicating with each other what worked to fuck people over and what didn't work to fuck people over. That's all that is.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a lot less of that Bay Street startup too.
Yeah,
those guys,
the shines off the industry.
Like, pulled it out.
You can do better IPOs faking to the public that you're going to go mine precious metals off meteorites than you can in a cannabis company now. Those guys who were, you know, if you cut me open, I bleed cannabis 3 years ago. They're going, if you cut me open, I bleed mining precious metals on meteorites. So it's funny to watch that progression. But yeah, I think as the shine knocks off and it becomes treated like just another industry, you're going to see less of that fools rush in mentality. But we're definitely still like shaking out from that for sure.
There's a lot of shakeup still ahead of us, and I think the amount of insolvencies you're going to see from these other producers and LPs out there, especially we're already seeing it, like in the big guys, you know, closing up all these, you know, thousands of square feet of facilities. Where there's going to be more of it, and it's a good thing. You know, guys like us, you know, we can kind of we can make it go. I think we've found our target market and we've found what we're good at, and we're going to just kind of run with that, and we're not going to try being something we're not. And we're going to see a lot of things around us change, but hopefully we can just kind of sit here and we can keep pumping out some hot fire, and maybe one day kick the fence out and, you know, add just a few more rows. Like that would be kind of fun.
Do you think it gets worse before it gets better, or do you think we've kind of seen the bottom of the market and things are
no I think on the legacy side, I think it's kind of there, dude. Like if you look at the medical license that have been issued, like there's a contraction for like the first time in a long time. Like licenses at least that are valid, you know what I mean, are in decline. I've seen like, no man, a lot of people have packed up shop, dude. Like there's, you know, cats out west have, you know, they've been growing 1,500, you know, 1,000, 1,500 lights. Like they shut down and shit like that, dude. Like, you know, you wanted a good weed, you know, you're ready to pay for it.
Yeah, we're seeing that is definitely happening.
Because all that booth is going away now.
Yeah, I think you know, it's interesting to watch the legacy market and the legal market, and you know, the middle of the market's falling off, but you're still seeing a high demand for really quality cannabis in both sides of the market. So you know, I think that the roughest part might be over, and I think, you know, things will slowly start to get better. I'm hopeful, but you know, we're at the mercy of a lot of different variables. So
it's there's a lot of people on the way to their path to market that can derail things, and everyone's got to be in the pocket, and the government takes a big chunk and excise, and I think there will be some changes, but they're going to take a decade, like until like the regulators really kind of sit down and take the feedback from the growers and been like, okay, I think we made our heyday off this. It's, it's time to give these guys a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
We're not bad people, like just because we were part of the legacy market. It didn't make us any worse than any other person, but we're treated like criminals from the get-go, like from the security clearances to the security on site, which is absolutely like asinine. And then they do things like that. Then you got people saying, well, I got 50% cannabinoids in my flour on these COAs. And you're like, well, so 50% of your flour is that really?
We haven't seen that on this side yet, but yeah, we've seen, like, you know what I mean? The COAs. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, man. Like, so I think on the legal side of things, we're going to still see some price contraction. Bottom's coming soon for sure. I believe, like, we're getting near on the legal side, but I still think we're going to see a little bit of crunch, dude. Like, but yeah, the end is near. And then prices are, going to start climbing, man. That's on the legacy, like, and that's for the retail side of guys. You're not going to see any of that, but I'm just saying for like us producers and stuff, like, there might be a little bit of drive down. Like the stores, like everybody, listen, like we sell it to a board. The board marks it up a lot. They sell it again. They mark it up a lot. And then you got to pay taxes on that.
Yeah.
We're not, just because the price is this, like the farmer, we're getting a very small percentage of that, man. Especially like if you have partners, like, you know what I mean? Like post-harvest, like processing and stuff. Like there's a lot of things to consider. Like, it all adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that until more G7 countries legalize and Canada can take a breath of relief from being like a global leader in something, well, I think once that happens, a lot of these regulations will relax. Potentially these taxes will be reduced, and then we'll be able to have a bit more of a healthy ecosystem. And, you got to keep the animal alive if you want to live off it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, man. It's wild. Yeah.
What, this is your opportunity to kind of shout everybody out who's been helpful along the way. I'm sure there's been more than a few people, Jason, who's been instrumental in kind of helping you guys get here. Who do you want to thank?
Oh man, my mom is like, she's put probably more time down here than a lot. Like it's crazy. She's up there like a lot. So she's worked.
Shout out, Mom.
And she's broke her back for us. So we really got to give a big shout out to her, because she put a lot of skin into this game as well. And she didn't really necessarily sign up for any of it, but she's here to support us. And luckily she's only 7 farms down. It's not far. So all our families, of course. And they've been instrumental, and we got a lot of support in our community, family, friends. There is a lot of people out there rooting for us. So that's always nice to know when you run into people and they're always asking you, how you doing? Oh, I'm so happy to hear things are going good. Like, that's great. But that would be the big ones for me. Arden, you can make your shout outs. And
you guys know who you are. I don't name names.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Arden. So like, what's next? You guys have the pre-roll on the market. You've got the milled flour. The Emerald Mountain Legacy seeds are coming. What is there anything else that you want to announce?
Well, as soon as we get our final, we'll be making an announcement here pretty soon. Once we get like the final, we get past all these submission phases with the OCS and stuff.
We're not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we got stuff popping. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We're making big moves. We're not done.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, guys. Well, Arden, Jason, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was really cool kind of learning awesome. More about you and where you guys came from and what the plan is going forward. And I don't think we're going to see this isn't the last year. We'll definitely have you on again and want to hear about all the cool projects you're working on when you're allowed to talk about them. So
yeah, for sure, man. I watched the show, dude. So it's cool.
Yeah,
dude, I appreciate that. That.
Yeah, well, cheers, man. So much.
Yeah, thanks. And when you see Ben, tell him we said hi.
I will. Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you guys have a great night.
Awesome. Thanks.